Recording in progress.
All right, guys, thanks for making it to, I don't know if this is fully part two. I feel like this is part 1.5. Okay. It's part 1.5. It's kind of like GPT 3.5, even though we're at GPT 4. Okay. I think part two will fully go out in the next 30 days. This is part 1.5. And we've got a special guest with us, Matt Fagioli. He's a friend of both of ours. Matt, welcome. We appreciate you being on from the top of your barn.
Yeah, man. Hiding in the woods as always. Glad to be here.
I'm surprised you have internet there. Great job on that. I like that.
Can be a little spotty, knock on wood.
Nice. And of course, we've got my co-host. I feel like I'm the co-host. You're the main host, Chris. Chris Tamm. Chris, welcome, buddy.
Thank you. Great to be here. I love your voice. I know you're recovering from being sick, so thank you for being on. Definitely appreciate it.
I've been at 80% with my voice for like 4 days, but I had zero voice over the weekend. So I'm glad to be on. Let's jump right into this, Chris. I want to start with GPT-4. It was just announced. People have been showcasing it. I texted you. I said, can I build Pong? And then we realized that somebody already built Pong through the coding. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be fun. What are some of the things we should be looking out for that are important to us when we're running a business with GPT-4, Chat GPT-4?
Yeah. Great question. And there's so many things that we obviously can talk about here, and want to try and make this, again, like we did last time, as interactive as we can. So if there's questions from anybody that's watching this that you want us to address, or kind of specific things, let's definitely go down those roads. Quick update on kind of GPT-4 and what it means more from the business standpoint. So right now there's alpha features that are not fully released yet. So we have access to GPT-4 API, which is, you can do a few more things than what you can do through ChatGPT. So ChatGPT right now, like if we show my account, you can get 50 free searches through GPT-4 or completions every single day, unless you have a paid account or have access to the API. Now, GPT-4 is up to 6 times more expensive than GPT-3. So when you think about it, it can handle, 8 times more information than GPT-3. So they call that up to 32,000 tokens as compared to 4,000. Again, it gets really technical, but it can handle larger queries and larger memory inside of that when you're asking it to do something or asking it to spit something out. So it can handle much larger pieces of data. It's also a lot more analytical. So you can paste things into it like the SAT or the ACT or your taxes, or like I had a little example here. I'm just going to share screen really quick. This one. You can paste in, like I just pasted in and said, hey, what are the vulnerabilities with this piece of code or with this contract? And again, you can paste in code or legal contracts, and it spits out and says, here's the vulnerabilities and the concerns with it. And so it's now analyzing things so much better. So if you have a contract and you want to ask, hey, what could I do here to defend myself or use it to do something else? Paste the contract into GPT-4, see what it says, and then call your attorney and see what your attorney says. And even with this, and again, we'll talk through some real world cases of some of the things that are happening. We'll jump around a lot, but there's a case right now in California where an attorney AI system is being sued for practicing law without having a law license, because it's helping people get advice of what to do without paying an attorney. And so they're being sued right now, saying you're not allowed to do that. So GPT-4 it is revolutionary in some senses, but all the features aren't out. There's another piece of GPT-4, which is, like I was saying, hey, can you analyze this image? And what they're saying is they can't view images directly yet, but GPT-4 is multimodal. It can analyze images. And an example of that is, this is kind of an alpha feature. Somebody submitted this picture and says, hey, what's funny about this? Describe it panel by panel. And GPT-4 can look at the picture, understand it, and say, here's why it's funny. It shows a package for a lightning cable, but this is a VGA connector, and the VGA connector has a lightning cable in it. That's funny because they don't normally come that way. And so it starts to be able to understand images and reason. Wow. And so today you can give it a joke, you can explain an image to it, and it'll take the nuance. We're waiting for the API to be able to upload the images or paste them in ChatGPT and allow it to work from those. So it has different types of input, and it's a lot more analytical. Personally, for what we use it for, or what you might use it for in real estate, it may not change much, except for that it repeats itself less. It has a lower chance of making up facts, so it can be a little bit more accurate. But if you take the math and say, if you load a max query of 32,000 tokens at up to 12 cents per thousand tokens, you can get up to almost $4 per response. And so if you're running 100 texts in a text campaign at $4 each, that could be a $400 conversation just for the OpenAI cost. So we're starting to get to the point where there can be a lot of money spent for this, and choosing which model to use, GPT 3.5 Turbo or 3.5 or 4, can be almost 100 times the cost difference for a completion. So again, gets a little nerdy with it, but when you think about what do I want to do? Do I want to pay 100 times more for that? It starts to become a little bit of a consideration.
Got it. It makes a lot of sense. So if we're looking at this right now to be able to use it for our businesses, because this is, let me just log into mine, because I'm paying $20, right? $20 a month. You see, we have the option still to go back to the previous one. GPT-4, if I go to the bottom, I can do 50 messages every 4 hours. Just this section, you can see I've played around with it a lot. What are some things right now that you would use it for, specifically for your business? Either Matt or Chris on this one.
Matt, you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I've been playing with it a good bit, and the stuff I'm working on isn't real estate specific, but I think what's blown me away is, here we are, only 4 months in, 5 months in to this whole, public space, and it's exploding in terms of people who are going really deep, spending their whole business in this realm. It cracks me up. I was sort of thinking of the analogy where, when we all watch the Olympics, and by the second week we're experts on curling and analyzing the game, like all of a sudden, like everybody is an expert on GPT, and that blows me away. But I've been using it for simple prompts. Every time I'm going to do a post, webinar, anything, I'm just getting back, give me a list of ideas around this particular thing. And I've been blown away. There's nothing earth shattering about what it reports, but it reports it instantly, and it informs the conversation that I'm going to have, or the podcast that we're going to do, or whatever it is. So, I think just simple uses. I think, having worked in and around real estate for 20 years, it's kind of a keep it simple, stupid environment, right? Like you don't have to overthink this really, but it can inform any conversation that you're about to have. Down to, hey, I'm getting ready to walk into this property. Tell me 10 things about this neighborhood. Tell me 10 things about this city, whatever, to just inform the next conversation really quickly.
I like that. I think that's a really good way of using it. What we've been noticing is, because we're using it deeper in, I use it daily, multiple times a day, but I use it for stupid crap, stuff that you guys probably wouldn't use it for. Junk. I compete against it. I'm like, well, what do you think about this? Really? Why do you think that? It's like I have a battle with it. Outside of that, though, I'm going deeper into.
You told us before we went live, you said you wanted to build Pong, but somebody beat you to it.
It's stupid. It's dumb. But I'm using it now for our different businesses, which is one of them is social media, right? Like I have a little raccoon drunk on social. We're really going deeper into saying, well, what type of content can we create? What about newsletters, right? And let's go deeper in the newsletter. What about courses? The power of what it can do now versus what it was doing before is that there's a lot more detail involved. And I love this, because look what I just asked it to do. It's typing it up right now. This is simple. And it didn't go this deep last week, or, when we last did it, Chris. Create a newsletter about real estate for the Los Angeles areas. There it is, header. There's issue number 1. Welcome to the first issue of Los Angeles Real Estate Insider. Gave me a name. This month's issue includes, it's outlining it for me. 4 things. Number 1, market snapshot. Definitely like that. Number 2, featured neighborhood, Silver Lake. That's an area that's really nice. It decided to do that on its own, right? Featured neighborhood, Silver Lake. There it is. Next, property spotlight. I go down, property spotlight. Let's spotlight this property. I didn't even tell it what to do. And then upcoming real estate events in Los Angeles. This is on its own. So the ability for us to be able to use this as not only creating content, think of it as an assistant at this point, right? What we have is, we have somebody that's typing this up, giving it the right prompts so that we discover better prompts. And then what we're doing is we're having somebody to do quality control, right? Because that's what we realize. The human aspect of this, I don't see it ever going away, because that's where we need the human touch, whether it is for quality control, who knows how long that's going to last, but also the authentic piece, right? The human piece to it. Because if I'm reading this, I need to add, when you read through this, you're like, oh yeah, it doesn't sound like me, right? Because I want to add the fagioli to it. I want to add the Tammness to it. And that's what's going to separate you, right?
I love
right
I love how you use the word assistant. I think that is the perfect important line to draw. And another example of I'm walking into a listing appointment is, let's say that that the client is an architect, and you say, hey, tell me 20 things that architects are concerned about right now in their business or whatever. But it informs the conversation. It's like having an earbud, like, okay, tell me what to talk about with this guy, about what he's interested in, or this lady, or whatever it is. So I think it's just always in that assistant role. How can I fill my head with way more information faster that's relevant to whatever my next conversation is?
So one other piece with that, definitely, like where both of you are taking that, is that GPT-4 compared to like GPT-3 or ChatGPT, I would argue it's not revolutionary for how people are using it in their business today, outside of, Tristan, what you said, being more accurate. Now, one piece that is, like, we tap up against in our business, what we do, we tap up against that 4,000 limit on GPT-3 all the time. And so being able to get longer prompts now and longer things, like if you want to Tristanize or fagiolize that newsletter, you could feed it with a page or 2 pages of another one of your newsletters that was Tristanized and say, write it in this voice. And so when you're giving it the direction, if you give it some of your voice, it'll use that voice when it writes the rest. And that really gets to like a new skill, if somebody wants to Google it or YouTube it, but prompt engineering is the way you control these things, and how you prompt engineer and what you feed it really controls the output. If you can ask it to do 2 things or 10 things or 1 thing, but now that you have that larger token limit with GPT-4, you can give it even more information to give it its background and have it spit out longer things also.
Yeah, that gives me an idea, Chris. I hadn't really thought about using personality profiles. I wonder if you'd said it like, hey, Matt's an Enneagram 7 and my disc profile is X, and then write in a voice around those parameters. That'd be really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Chris.
Go for it. Oh, I was just saying, we feed it all kinds of different conversational backgrounds and histories and summaries to take really complex conversations that might go on for 50 or 100 responses and summarize, chunk them up, get responses back. Really neat ways that you can use it. And GPT-4 will give us just a much larger ability to do that. But also from like the robotic, this goes a little bit nerdy, but from the robotic process automation side, GPT-4, once that feature is released on the API, we're not going to have to send our images necessarily by machine learning and image detection anymore. GPT-4 could do the image side and the text side for us. So the idea of getting a text conversation of somebody sending memes and pictures and whatnot, it can start interpreting that for you instead of a human. So you can start even plugging in and getting picture responses and meme responses and things that have never been created before. I think where I take that is the use cases, like what you said, Matt, what people are coming up with and what they've even come up with in the last couple of months, like the number of tools we could talk about and say, here's what's new that you've never seen before 2 months ago. That is starting to accelerate even more. And I'm going to shut up there. I'll get way too deep.
Well, I think part of that is what you're talking about. The other part to this is we're also seeing a larger amount of people realize that the prompts are just as important as those other tools that are popping up. And so I'm going to show, as you've been talking, guys, I'm creating a quick Google Doc of prompts that I've used right here. And I'll give this away to you guys. Prompts that I've used, because we test out so many different prompts. And I'm going to show you one of these, and then I'll give this out to you. It'll be open. And look, Chris, I'll share this with you too. And Matt, this way, if you want to add anything to it, we can. But I'm going to go and grab one of these and just show you what it can do based on the prompts. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to grab this one on social media really quick. And I'm going to go over to OpenAI. and put it at the bottom. I'm going to take the parentheses off. I just typically have them on. But I'm going to read it to you. It says, I'm looking to grow my YouTube channel and increase my view subscribers. Can you help me come up with a strategy for, and I left that as a target audience. Who's your audience, right? I want to know for real estate, first-time home buyers, real estate sellers, right? That include a schedule for creating and promoting content. Who's your audience? For you, that's great. I'm going to put that just so that you can create a strategy. And I'll share this with you because I'll add SEO ones as well so you can have it. As it's building it out though, I'm going to go to Chris or to Matt. How important is the prompts and what have you noticed creates better outcomes when it comes to these prompts?
Well, I mean, Chris is grinning and can talk about this for hours. And, I'll go back to my keep it simple, stupid analogy because I think the prompts are everything, but I don't think you have to go that deep. One layer deeper than, the generic Google search. In the olden days, 6 months ago, we would talk about long tail search on Google and being pretty specific. And so as long as you bring that long tail mindset to this, I think you can get such amazing information. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to ChatGPT first now. Like I don't even go looking at Google. It's really interesting to talk about what it's going to do to ad cost and search results and all that stuff, because my inclination is already to go to chat. And I think it is for you guys too.
Oh, all the time. When it comes to the right prompts, Chris, what are some things that you've noticed help you identify better prompts?
Yeah, I think it's just seeing what other people are doing. That's a constant thing right now. We talked about last time the idea of, do you need all those different knives or tools or whatever? The idea that even those tools are changing. So understanding what people are using for their prompts and how they're getting it to do what they want to, like what you just showed, I think it's an ever evolving thing right now. And so I know that I'm not going to figure out the coolest prompt or the coolest way to use it. And so it's spending a little bit of time each week seeing what other people are doing, and then really trying to change the lens of how we're looking at our problems. Is that because we do automation in one of our businesses, and so working across different industries and seeing how other people are applying these problems, it's even in the prompt side, every week we're solving a problem that we've never been approached with before, nobody solved before, and about half of them are now getting solved by integrating somehow with GPT, either from a coding perspective or a response perspective, or hey, suggest replies to all emails or all conversations. Just really interesting ways to plug in that GPT or that type of a very open and powerful engine that's all driven through those prompts. Like, what do you want to ask it to do? What are you feeding it? And so the idea of even feeding it all your emails and all your text messages and say, show me all the things that I should respond with. And you could just say, yes, 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 or no. And it kind of reminds me, again, this may not be PC for everybody watching this, but the recent South Park episode where it started and it was some really, really genuine text messages to boyfriend and girlfriend. And I turned to my wife, I'm like, this has to be about GPT. And the whole thing was about using GPT-3 to replace yourself in relationships. And hilarious. But it's starting to change culturally. And so prompt engineering is a skill like using a graphing calculator, that if you know how to use it really well, you can do 10 times more just knowing how to ask it and what to ask it. And so it's a new skill, but it's like even Zapier just came out with a natural language communication for it to build automations for you, where you can just talk to it and tell it what you want and it builds everything for you. And so that type of relationship with coding and programming is very new for most people. And so it's a skill we have to develop, but it's also the new way to code.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. All right, there are some questions because although we're focused on GPT-4 right now, there are other things that we can add to it as far as AI using other tools. We know that for the most part, most companies are tapping into the API for GPT-3, and some have already started with GPT-4. That's why we're diving deeper into GPT-4 here. I'm going to showcase a little bit, Chris, and then I'm going to go to you to see what other tools there are. I know we're in the process of building one out, right? And you want to showcase that. So first, I'm going to go to my screen, and then I'm going to give these prompts out to you, to everybody listening in. I already sent them to Chris and to Matt by email as they were talking. So I just want to showcase what was built out as we were talking when we prompted it. And we said, hey, I'm looking to grow my YouTube channel and increase my views and subscribers. Can you help me come up with a strategy for real estate sellers that includes a schedule for creating and promoting content? And so here it is. It gave me a few things: define your target audience, set clear goals, content creation. It gave me video ideas, the schedule, and it kept on going all the way down to analyze and adapt. It's part of being able to ask it questions like this. So I've got one for you for blogs. I've got one for you for social, even though it's mainly YouTube because I'm focused on YouTube. And I know we were asked about SEO. So I put some in there for you for SEO as well. You can test this out. We've tested these out a whole bunch of times and tweak them just over the last, I could say over the last few years, but it hasn't been years. It's been really days, and in some cases months. So I'm going to share it right now, and you guys can always add to this. Just make a copy. Matt, Chris, you can add to it. Everyone else, make a copy and add whatever you want to it. I just dumped it in there. Let me know if you guys can open this. Give me a thumbs up, or in the chat, say yes, I can open it, or just a yes. So I'm able to know that you can see this, just so I put the right setting. Perfect. Todd, thank you so much. All right. So now going back to this, Chris, for you, if we're looking at using other tools outside of just GPT-4, what are some things that you're excited to use besides Google Docs, which is going to have AI, besides Microsoft Office, which just announced that they're going to have it too? It's like, this is insanity. Everything's going to have it besides those two.
Yeah. So besides those, and we wanted to try and keep this to about 30 minutes. We've got about maybe 7 to 10 minutes left here. And I know we have a couple projects that we want to announce here. So we need you to hang on for maybe like 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to spend maybe 2 or 3 minutes and go through a couple different tools. And then I want to pivot that into a public project that we've been asked to work on with a lot of other industry leaders, and talk about that for a second. And that goes over to Matt also to talk about another project we've been working on, some of us for up to 10 years here. And so really quick, just kind of rapid fire through a couple of different tools and some of the changes we've been seeing the last couple of months here, just to think about how fast this is changing and how what you learned a few months ago sometimes has already been eclipsed by the next technology now. So I'm going to share a screen here. These are some pretty public tools. So this first one, this is the Microsoft AI Labs. This is looking at what's coming next. What are the things that you could play with, that you could actually mess with code? I mean, artificial noses, image recognition, all kinds of math from just looking at it, from really looking at people, notes, machine reading. This also goes in, one of these other projects is this, which is Sketch to Code. So this is an AI lab project where on a whiteboard, somebody can be drawing and the computer is automatically changing it into HTML to automatically build a website. And there's other types of systems that do this. This can happen on a screen during a Zoom meeting, or from a whiteboard, just people working in general. So we're starting to see computers being able to help us do things in real time while people are meeting. So actually turning into code during the meetings, they could actually use it and see what happens. And even little things like this, I think you actually sent me this, or Trenton did. But the idea, you can just draw something and say what it is. So you just scribble, say what it is, and it turns it into an entire picture. So you can kind of guide a little bit easier than using Midjourney and some of these other ones where you can just scribble and say, I want it to look like this, and it generates full things. So again, these are all, we're not going to spend a lot of time here. We're not walking through how to use them. Another one, Midjourney, had their version 5 rollout, which has tremendous things you can do with pictures, and it's much more high definition, and you got a lot more controls there. But Tristan, do you mind if I pivot from that and we talk just for a few seconds about the Brainy Agnes project?
Yeah, for sure, man. I love the scribble diffusion. Is that an owl?
It is. Yeah. So if we say, hey, it's a goofy owl, and then see what it pops out. Let's give it a second. That's here.
Super cute. That looks like my drawing.
Yeah, which is twice as good as mine. But you can sketch anything and then say what you want it to look like, and then you get the AI generated picture from it.
I love it, man. All right, yeah, pivot. Go ahead. Let's go.
Okay. So we've been we've been working for years in this artificial intelligence, machine learning, all the really nerdy stuff behind the scenes, implementing this for businesses. And we were approached by a large group of people that want to do a project in the real estate space that is public with the agents. And so this type of technology and change is here. And I hope you see that it's here to stay and it's advancing very quickly. So it's not going anywhere. With that, there are going to be technologies that are started that will help us as professionals in our daily lives, help us to do more, and also are going to disrupt our lives a little bit from what we've been used to doing. And so we know that there's a choice between a technology like this for real estate agents being owned by an outside company or being owned by real estate agents. And so we've worked on, Tristan as well, and a number of other large number of top influencers, connectors, brokerage owners, real estate teams, and agents on a project that's developing basically a full cycle artificial intelligence that follows a real estate agent for the life of their entire career, that's focused on coaching, training, mentoring, helping accomplish tasks, and going into these kind of fringe areas of multimodal where you can talk to it, text to it, and it helps you accomplish things. So that is super vague intentionally because it's not 100% ready to roll out. There are already features that are being used with it. But in saying that, a part of this company is owned by a co-op, which is for real estate agents. And the idea with this is that this is a project that agents co-own together, that the upside from it, the long-term where it goes, being involved in the conversation. And so there's a second project that we've been working on for a very long time, and we've all been advising on here, and many other people in the industry have been. And I wanted to say, Matt, do you want to take it from there and explain how you see kind of the ability to work on this together through a different structure?
Yeah, I mean, and you've teed it up, perfectly. But if I could go backwards just for 30 seconds, I think I want to punctuate where we are this moment in time. I don't know how you guys feel, but I mean, I feel like, and I'm old enough with this gray to remember my first email address, my first web search that was meaningful. Then we get a little further down the road and things are more sophisticated. We get to the mid 2000s and, Twitter and Facebook are exploding and the world changed. And I think we're at an inflection point like that, but the acceleration point is 10x. You guys agree with that line of logic?
Yeah.
And so with that context, now we can talk about the real estate co-op, what it is and why. And, the thing is that technology is about to go 10x faster, and 2 years later, it'll be going 10x faster again. And the speed is going to just be breakneck. And for all these years that a lot of us have been in real estate, we haven't owned any of the tech. And then a cool tool will get built and it'll get bought by Zillow or it'll get bought by CoStar or what, we just have no control over all of the software. And so the co-op that we've developed, all of us, the three of us here and many other people are involved in this project, is going to allow the agents and brokers that are actually doing all the real estate transactions to start owning all of the software that gets developed. And this AI project, Brainy Agnes, is among the first to do that. And the co-op is also going to do a lot of other cool stuff, but I only want to talk about one other thing. And that is the ability to share revenue across a huge network. So for everybody who's listening to this, who's either at EXP or at KW or at Real or at anywhere that has profit share or revenue share, any model like that, we could think of the co-op as becoming your revenue share or profit share model. It's not exactly like that. So we're not going to hold ourselves to any specific parameters, but the point is you're going to be able to share business and refer business for everything else. When you're at EXP or KW or Real or any of these other places, you can share revenue across commission dollars, but nothing else flows through that network. This eventually will be a network where dollars can flow across this network and be shared across agents. Agents only are the only ones who are going to allow to be active voting members of this. It'll be owned by the members. Every member will have a vote. All of the profit dollars after expenses will go return back to all of the agents that own it. But in the context of where we're starting, it's around this software development and allowing everybody to be part of these huge projects that are going to take over the industry in the next few years. So I hope I framed it. It's a huge subject, really hard to bake down in a few minutes, but that's where we are. And unbelievably, we're not launching officially till a few weeks from now, but unbelievably, if you're on this call, you get to reserve your spot, and you'll be one of the first people to receive an invitation when it launches in just a couple of weeks. And so, Chris, do you have that QR code by chance?
Yeah, paste it in here. I'm trying to figure out maybe an easier way to paste it in the. Give me a second. Let me just.
While you're bringing that up, I added to that Google Doc. If you guys are still on the Google Doc, I added generating content ideas, those prompts that we had saved, because we have all of these prompts saved. I added that on there. So if you want to jump back in there and take a look, I'll probably be adding some more prompts for you in there as I decide based on, because we have over 500 different prompts that our team has saved. So I'm trying to see which ones make sense for most people. And I'm actually going through them right now to see which ones. Researching competitors, that could work, maybe.
Yeah, so here's this QR code. If you scan this, you can either text join to this phone number here or just scan the QR code. It'll send a text message. This will put you into a little bit of an information gathering to be on the list for the real estate co-op. And the idea, again, like what Matt said, is that a co-op is a structure like an LLC or a corporation where the real estate agents have one vote and co-own what the co-op has. And so the future of this, about having the conversation where the benefit goes back to the agent for the benefit they bring, is a way that we can all have this conversation together and build it together and share in the benefits together. So this isn't somebody building something for you that you're just paying them and just they benefit. You benefit from this long term. And then the second one, not to confuse this, but if you would like any information on the artificial intelligence side of what we're talking about, or specifically the Brainy Agnes project outside of necessarily the co-op, this is the second QR code where this will get you into a flow to get you some information about that as we continue to roll out more on that. And again, this Brainy Agnes AI project is partially owned by the co-op, which means it's co-owned by the agents that are helping develop it for that long-term benefit. Matt, any other way that you...
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to ask you, how do you want to attack that?
Well, I guess just one last point of clarity on the QR codes is that, both projects are related. You're not straying too far off if you miss either one of those, but, safe bet is do both. Scan both QR codes, put your name on the list for the information about Brainy Agnes, but also to be one of the first invitations into the co-op. And if any of you are in Clubhouse, drop it in the chat if you are either in Clubhouse now or you have been. I know Tristan has. And if you are, you'll remember that when they launched, they had a very throttled approach. It was private invitations only, and they were slow to bring in people over time and make sure that they could handle the growth. And that's what you're going to see happen with the co-op. But it's going to be really important to be one of the first ones in. Imagine if you were below Gary Keller in the KW profit share tree, or below Glenn Sanford in the EXP model and stuff like that. So it's a really early opportunity, and you may find out 5 years from now, you may give Chris and Tristan a big kiss on the lips and say, "Man, I can't believe I was on that call and I was one of the first." So we're pretty pumped about it.
I like it, guys. All right, let's see if anybody has any questions. How can I join from outside the US? So Canada, Europe. What are we looking at?
Laura, that's a super technical legal answer, actually, because a co-op is a US-based nonprofit 501c12. And so it is for US operations today. And also the AI piece of this project is compliant with the US rules, but Europe has GDPR, and other ones have different rules around how the stuff communicates. And so we're launching this as a US first project, unfortunately.
Have to get a US license to those of you who are outside the US, if you can figure that out.
Yeah. And
Yeah, so
guys,
we probably should clarify that a little bit too. It's definitely, you have to have a license, active license number to participate. And that's part of our onboarding verification and all that. So
I like it. All right, everyone, this was part 1.5 because I got sick, or it would have been part 2. But from the last one, we have a list of all of the things we talked about, plus some more. Matt and Chris, if you want to add to that Google Doc that I shared with you, the prompts for Chat GPT-4, if you want to add at the bottom that QR code so people have it on there, that probably is a great idea. I didn't think, or actually just the website link on how do people get there. Add it to the bottom. Let me separate it with a line so you guys can just add it there. And then what was that, co-op? There's a co-op.
To be clear, we're using the text in numbers to build the list, and that's the only way to get on the wait list right now.
So just put whatever you want there so people have it at the bottom, and then I'll keep on adding to those prompts on the Google Doc as well. Cool. Anything you guys want to end this on? Because I know this was going to be a shorter one, but anything?
I got one more tool I can throw out. I'm enamored with this tool called Descript right now. And Chris, I don't know if you have that handy, you can pull it up, but I'm doing, and Tristan, I know you do tons of podcasting and video recording. Descript does an amazing job of you throw the video in there and it transcribes it very quickly. And if you may have noticed by listening to our conversation for the last 30 minutes that I have a tendency to and more than I should. And one of the awesome things that Descript does is it pulls all this out really quickly. So
and of course, I'll show you how Descript.
Yeah, sorry about the audio there.
That's cool. Yeah, Chris, I know you've used it some too as well. But anyway, that's my hot tool tip for this call.
Yeah, I love Descript, dude. Being really good. Let's see what Jeffrey says. Jeffrey says, we've already used to write a homebrew beer recipes or even to create a clone of commercial beer style or a beer 50 years out of production. Interesting how version 4 will improve upon the brew. Jeffrey, what a great comment, because I don't think we even know the answer to that yet. We don't know what all of this means for humanity as a whole. We're figuring it out as we go. And that's the cool part. This is why we're like on it. We want to showcase this more, because the more we can get this information out to everybody, the more power you have to be able to use it how you envision it. And that's the thing we don't know yet. That's the beautiful. I would have never thought to do that, Jeffrey. Like, seriously, beer? That's awesome. I love that. All right, guys. Matt, Chris, put up that link or put up the QR code to the Google Doc. I'm going to add other prompts in there, so at least that'll sit at the bottom of it so we can go from there. And then, guys, this is part 1.5. Part 2 will happen sometime in the next 30 days. In part 2, we're going to showcase, very similar to what we did in part 1, where we dove into that Dropbox link where we showcase all of the tools we're using them, how we're using it. We'll show you how Midjourney has accelerated. It's now on 5, which is great. My son is using it more than I am now at this point. My daughter's using it to create D&D characters, and it's getting wild and fun. So everyone, thanks for joining us. Chris, thanks for doing this. Matt, thanks for joining us. I want you in part 2, buddy. So jump in on part 2 to this with us.
Awesome. I'll be back. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
See ya.
Record.